Hello and welcome to the show. Before we begin, apologies. This is one of those out and about recording episodes. I'm sure those of you who've been listening to the podcast regularly have noticed that I haven't done these out and about episodes in a while, and that was deliberate. That's because I figured I owe it up to you guys to give you the best audio quality possible. But the problem has now been that since I committed to recording exclusively in my recording space at home, it has meant that I haven't been able to record as often as I want because, sometimes I'm home, I'm about to hit a recording session, and then, the kids are at home or the in laws pop in, that sort of stuff. Now, for those of you who are self employed like me and who haven't gotten an office outside of the home yet, you know that these are some of the interruptions that just come up every now and then and throw a wrench in your workflow. So what that has meant was that if I'm only going to record in my recording space when it's convenient, it means that the podcast episodes have not been able to come out as regularly as I would have liked. So I'm going to go back to the old formula of just basically recording wherever I am. So if I'm home and my it's convenient in my recording space, I'll use that. But if I'm out on the road in the middle of an engagement or something like that, and I'm inspired or I have my question list with me, I'll just go ahead and make the podcast recording then. Yeah, so that's it pretty much. So that's the long and short of just saying that these out and about episodes are back. You're going to hear noises in the background. There's a cow currently that's just moving around where I am. So if you hear any cows moving in the background, then that's where that's coming from. So expect some interruptions with today's episode. So if this is your first time listening to the show, and now you are prepared for the sounds of cows and chickens in the background because I'm out and about, let me introduce you to the show. It's called the Sales for the Nigerian Business Person podcast. It's available on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple iTunes, or any podcast player of your choice. So subscribe for free once you're done listening to this episode. And please remember to give me a 5-star review, because even though you're going to hear children in the background, cars and cows, I can assure you that the information that you're going to receive here is worth a 5-star review. And if you're Nigerian, it's definitely miles above any podcast that you're listening to currently at the moment, because we go beyond motivational fluff and we're tackling things in a very practical, tactical sense on how to move the business forward. So today on the show, we're going to be continuing conversations with Remilekun, who is a podcast listener who reached out to me on LinkedIn. I can't remember, let's say maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. If this is your first time of listening to the show, after you're done listening to this episode, listen to the prior episodes. You get a sense of who Remilekun is, our relationship, and the conversations that we have been having on LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and then, of course, over here on the airwaves, sharing it with you guys so that you can benefit from the exchange of ideas that we've had so far. So, dear Remilekun, this is the end of the series, and I'm going to address your 3 final questions. So your first, the questions that we narrowed down the last time that we had a chat on WhatsApp were this. Question number 1. To make sales on LinkedIn, does it require networking and relationships? Question number 2. In making sales on LinkedIn and social media, is it okay to just say the value of your product or service and then move on? And then question number 3. Is creating and sustaining relationships on social media tiring? So, I am going to answer all 3 in quick succession instead of devoting a podcast episode to each one. Although I would say to give the best value or the largest context to these questions, each question would have needed a podcast episode on its own. But let me just go straight to the answer in quick order. So, number 1, to make sales on LinkedIn, does it require networking and relationships? The answer is yes. It has to be networking and it has to be relationships on LinkedIn to get sales on LinkedIn. I'm stressing that, on LinkedIn, because of the nature and the dynamics of the site and the app. Instagram is a good app and it lends itself to business B2C commerce. That's businesses reaching out to consumers. So my wife is regularly buying stuff from Instagram. We've bought chicken, we've bought pajamas, we've bought yams, we've bought What else? I'm thinking of things that we've bought in the last month. Underwear, children's underwear, not wifey's underwear, because I don't think any self-respecting woman will buy underwear on Instagram. Anyway, enough about my personal life. But you get the point. On Instagram, we have bought loads of things over on Instagram in the last month. So, and that is because of the nature of that platform. The Instagram vendor can see if you engage on the post, and then they can go for a direct sale in the DM. They can send you a DM saying, "Oh, good morning, ma. I noticed that you liked blah blah blah, or that you engaged on so and so post. If you're interested, we have those pajamas available in size 8, and they're also available for your kids and for your husband." So, a vendor can start conversations like that on Instagram, and then a sale will be made. The point I'm trying to make is that if you do this kind of activity on LinkedIn, it's highly unprofessional. Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. People would look at you as being highly unprofessional to make those kind of moves on LinkedIn, but then that's because of the nature of the platform. And so that is why for LinkedIn, it has to be networking and relationships. If you're on Instagram is just the nature of the site. It lends itself very well to B2C commerce. So if you sell pajamas on Instagram, that's not a problem. You can send messages like this out to people all the time, and it's not a problem. LinkedIn is more professional instead of more personal. Okay, well, there's a personal element to LinkedIn, but I'm trust that you guys get the gist that LinkedIn is more professional. Even when you're putting personal stuff, it's still much more on the commerce side, professional side. And then LinkedIn is also about thought leadership and flexing your knowledge base. So that's what we're doing pretty much on LinkedIn. We're professional, even though we talk about personal stuff, and we're all trying to establish thought leadership. We're all trying to grow our knowledge base or our what's the other word? Audience base. So trying to sell something immediately without demonstrating thought leadership is a problem, because when you do that, you're going to assume lower status and you become a pest. So back to the example that I gave on Instagram. If my wife engages on posts about children's pajamas and then the person says, "Good afternoon, ma. I noticed that you liked so and so. We have those pajamas in size 8. We have them in Christmas theme because after all, we are in September now. So for those of you who have Christmas pajamas, I guess it makes sense to start putting them up there. Okay, maybe September is too far. Maybe you do that in November. So if you send something like that to my wife, it's not a problem. You don't assume low status, and you're not necessarily a pest. She can engage because after all, she's been on that handle. She has liked maybe 20 of the photos. So it only makes sense that you should go in and try and get a sale. But then if I were to do that on LinkedIn, automatically I am assuming lower status and I become a pest. So instead of being the wise and all-knowing and credible sales consultant, I become just a pest and a peddler like everybody else. So on Instagram, by all means, go ahead. On LinkedIn, networking and relationships, that is the way to go. So for LinkedIn, establish thought leadership with your content, build your network, build relationships, and it's only then, after you do that you can go in for the kill. So that's the reason why, I'm sure if you noticed, I've been doing lots of collaborations lately. The collaboration that I had with Edufa, that is the Indian student exchange program, where they bring affordable education to the African continent. They get people from Nigeria, South Africa, Mozambique, other countries. Take them over to Indian campuses. They get a world-class education, and since India is the outsourcing capital of the world, they also get to work for they also do get to do remote work for companies internationally, and this is how that collaboration was built effectively. I'm out there, I'm trying to promote myself, I'm showing thought leadership, I'm putting out content, and then I'm building affiliations and relationships with all these people, and that is how all these projects are come about. They didn't come about because I snuck into somebody's DM without them knowing me to say, "This is me, this is what I do, buy now, give me your account details, get on the calendar, let's book a meeting, blah blah blah," the typical things that people do. So that is how it works on LinkedIn. On Instagram, you can do things different. So I hope you guys get the point that it is site and app specific. So because I say this is what you do on LinkedIn, doesn't mean that's what you should do on Facebook, or that's what you should do on Twitter. Each one is going to require a different play. So speak to your relevant sales professional like me or a social media expert if you happen to know one, and they will help you come up with the best strategy for how to go about selling on these individual sites. So that's the quick answer to question number one. Let's see if I can do two and three in less than 10 minutes. So question number two, let's see, what's question number two? Sorry, forgive me, I have to scroll through our messages. Okay, so question number two is making sales on LinkedIn and social media. In making sales on LinkedIn and social media, is it okay to just say the value of your product and service and then move on? So that was the question. And the answer is no. The reason why you don't just say the value of your product or service and then move on is this. Because you're making assumptions that you know what is valuable to the person. I'll go back to the example that I gave of the fellow who was trying to sell me CV writing services. The person reaches out and he's trying to get me to buy CV services and everything. The person has assumed that CV writing services are important to me, and the person is trying to say the value of the product or service and to make a pitch, while the person ends up becoming a pest because I, given my circumstance, do not find CV writing valuable. So let's not just go and then say the value of your product or service and then move on, because you're making too many assumptions. When you make lots of assumptions, you become a pest. So there's another example of a photo retoucher who reached out to me on LinkedIn. Oh, sorry, for those of you who are not in the media business, a retoucher is someone who takes images, removes pimples, increases contrast, add colors, change the background, that sort of thing. Retouchers, they make the photos look real nice and professional. So somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn. He's a photo retoucher. And because of my past history in the wedding and the event space, for those of you who are not aware, I started off about 15 years ago in Lagos as a wedding photographer, and then later on moved to Abuja. But I'm totally out of that space right now. Still handling inquiries because I have a team. So if you're getting married anytime soon, or you have corporate events that need coverage, yeah, you can hit me up. I have a team and we'll sort you out. So, because of my past history, this person just assumed that I would need a photo retoucher. But what should the person have done? The person should have done some research before making a pitch. Or the person should have tried to engage me in conversation to figure out what my actual and my current needs are before making the pitch. You can see why this is a bad idea to just assume that people find your stuff valuable, then say the value and then move on. So if the person had browsed my LinkedIn, all he had to do was just open my LinkedIn profile, scroll up, scroll down, he would have seen that I've been showing more sales content now, although he would have noticed that I have an outdated profile photo or a still profile photo. So for those of you who've attended events that I've been hosting online, I'm sure you've noticed that it's the same profile photo I've been using since the last 2 years. So much more relevant outreach in this case would have been for him to send me a message saying that, hey, congratulations, bro. I noticed you used to be a wedding photographer, but now you're into this you're into this new career, this whole sales thing. But the photos that you're using, the photos are over 3 years old. Don't you think it'll be more professional for you to have new headshots and blah, 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 blah? That is the angle that the fellow should have taken, instead of just assuming that I'm looking for a retoucher because I have a history of being a wedding photographer in the past. So don't just show up and then say your value and then leave. Remilekun. That is a very bad idea when you start selling on LinkedIn, because you're assuming that you know what the people need. Don't assume. Do some research. Research sometimes as easy as opening the person's profile, scroll up, scroll down. It'll give you a sense. Is there a fit? Could this person need my product or service? Maybe not. And then try and engage the person in the conversation. So for this guy, instead of saying, reaching out and saying, hey guy, how far do you need a retoucher? You should have been more of, hey guy, what's up? Congratulations on this new career. Looks like you're doing real good with this business thing. But bros, these your photos, man, they're old and they're outdated. How about having a much more modern, branded photos? So how you see them? That should have been the approach. And that kind of thing, would have given me, I definitely would have responded to that sort of thing like, well, if nothing else, I would, to be polite on the congratulations, I would have said, oh, thank you, I'll consider it, but maybe not now, or something. But you get the gist. Don't just show up, say your value, and then leave. Do some research, see if the person needs the product or the service, or try and engage in a conversation to figure out what the needs are. So that's it. Then, okay, 15 minutes. So let's say I have 5 minutes to go. Question number 3. Let me scroll. Excuse me. Question number 3. Okay, is creating and sustaining relationships on social media tiring? Now, that is the crux of the question, and that's where this conversation began. If you follow what it is that I'm advocating, you might think like, man, this is a long thing, as in, it's a long story to reach out to people, to research them, to start building relationships, and blah, 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 blah. And most people think, look, I'm trying to make a living. I'm trying to make some money here from selling my pajamas, selling my CV, selling my retouching services. I beg, do I have to make friends with the whole world? The answer is no. You don't have to make friends with the whole world. But is creating and sustaining relationships on social media tiring? Is all this work going to tire you out? The answer is also no. You only get tired, you only get bored, you only get frustrated, you only get jaded, you only get whatever it is if you don't have a framework or a plan. If you don't have a framework, or if you don't have a plan for the conversations, for the relationship, then these conversations will always seem pointless. And that is where you start feeling tired. But if you have a plan and you have a point you're getting to, you have a framework, then the conversations are guided and the conversations are always moving along. You need to have a framework to sell, a framework for the conversation, a framework for the relationship that is going to direct how things go. And most importantly, a framework is what lets you know when to quit the relationship and when to stop trying. If you don't have a framework, you're not going to know should I continue with this or should I not? That's why we need a framework. So if a relationship on LinkedIn, if your relationship efforts on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever seem boring, seem irksome, you look like a pest, they seem tiresome, then the problem is, number one, you don't like people. And in that case, I feel sorry for you because, most of our businesses are people businesses, so you have to like people, or at least pretend to like people. Or, number two, you don't have a framework and then you're freestyling. And believe me, freestyling is very tiring. That is how I tried to build my business as a wedding photographer the first time round. It's very tiring to attend a wedding expo and then you're thinking, okay, what am I going to say today? And then 30 brides come by the table, and with each bride that comes, you're trying to freestyle for 30 brides. Of course, it's tiring. But then if you have a selling framework, you know what it is that you're going to say, you have a sense of how you're going to direct the relationship or the conversation, then it's no problem. Bride number 1 comes by, you follow the framework. Bride number 2, follow the framework. Bride number 3, follow the framework. I'm sure you guys get where I'm going with this. And it's the same on LinkedIn. If you're trying to sell on LinkedIn, you reach out to someone, you send a message, follow the framework. Second message, follow the framework. Third message, follow the framework. If you don't have a framework, then it's going to be very tiring, because you open the person's profile and like, okay, this guy is a former photographer and he's now a business consultant. Okay, what should I say? What is the best way? And then by the time you're done, you open up the next person's profile, and the next person is let's say the person is a personal assistant to maybe Dangote or something. And then you're like, okay, the personal assistant, what should I say? What should I open? What's the angle? Of course, you're going to get tired. So, people who freestyle in business, they get tired easily. And this is a challenge I'm going to issue to you. You do not know any successful person in business who has freestyled their way to the top. I can say that confidently. Go and meet your uncle, your auntie, your granddad, your pastor in church, whoever it is that you think is a successful person. You will find that they did not freestyle their way to the top. They had some sort of framework. You sit down, you'll get a sense of what the framework was. Freestyling is not going to cut it. Now, you might not agree with everybody's framework. You might not agree with the framework I propose. You might not agree with the framework that your pastor tells you he uses. And if you finally meet Dangote and you sit down with Dangote or Richard Branson, you might not agree with the framework or the philosophical approaches that they took to get where they did. But the thing is, they had a framework. So you need a framework. And when you have a framework, then building relationships on social media is not going to be tiring. It's going to be ordered, it's going to be structured, you're going to know where to start, what to say next, and most importantly, you're going to know when to stop, because it's not everybody that building a relationship is going to work with. So, okay, 19 minutes. Let me see. Okay, let me start wrapping up. Now, so how can we stop making friends forever on LinkedIn? Because this is how the conversation began with Remilekun on LinkedIn, or rather, that was the second phase of the conversation, because she listened to the podcast episodes I told her to listen to, and and she rightfully so, she thought that, well, what you're proposing can be a long thing. So how can we stop making friends forever on LinkedIn? That's how these conversations and these podcast episodes came about. Now, you remember that in 2 episodes prior, I gave you guys how many tools? Was it 3? I think it was 3 tools that will come in real handy when it comes to this whole thing of whether we're making friends forever on LinkedIn or not, or how to move the conversations forward. The first tool was ABC. Second tool, continuations. The third tool was advancements. If this is your first time listening to the show, skip back 2 episodes or just check any episode that has Dear Remilekun in the title, or just has Remilekun in the title, and you get caught up to speed. You get the general gist of what we've been talking about. So, how can we stop making friends forever on LinkedIn? Number 1, ABC. ABC is always be closing, but lots of people think closing is asking for money, and I don't want you to think that closing is asking for money. Closing is a whole lot more. So I choose to say ABC as always be asking for the commitment. When you're making friends on LinkedIn, or rather when you're trying to build commercial relationships on LinkedIn, whatever you're doing, you should be asking for some sort of commitment. You send a message now, you ask for a commitment. Send the second message, ask for the commitment. Send the third message, ask for a commitment. That's how you stop making friends forever. Instead of chatting back and forth and saying things like, oh, I saw that you went to OAU, I went to OAU too, blah, blah, blah. Those conversations will get you nowhere. It's nice if you can establish rapport that both of you went to OAU, or both of you went to Queen's Mary College in London, or whatever. But the thing is, we should always have commitment that we're asking for. Now, the commitment that you're going to be asking for depends at what stage of the relationship that you guys are at. So, sometimes the first commitment that you ask for is permission to ask a question, like the retoucher guy. The first message would be, hey, congratulations, bro. I noticed that you're no longer in the wedding and the event space, and you seem to be doing this business consulting thing. I hope you don't mind if I ask you a couple of questions. Or you can just go straight into the questions like, oh, how's the business consulting? How's that working out for you so far? Question. Now you can see that the conversation is moving forward purposely, not aimlessly, in one particular direction that will allow him later on to slide into that whole thing of, oh, by the way, your profile photos, they don't look tip-top. How about branded photos? So you see how it works. First commitment might be permission to ask questions. Second commitment could be to get a meeting or a phone call. So I don't think it's smart to try and close everything on LinkedIn. So if I was that guy and I asked a couple of questions and it looked like I'm dissatisfied with my branded photos that I've been using, then the second commitment could have been, yeah, are you free? Let me holler at you today by 3 p.m. or I can call you tomorrow morning. Let's have a chat about it. And you move it offline. You make it much more personal. That could be the second commitment. The third commitment could be to have presentation or to have a meeting to look over samples and things like that. That is where he says, you know what, let me come over to your place. You're in Apo. My studio is not far. Let me come over. We'll look over some what are they called, shortlist. We'll look over some shortlists and explore some storyboards, the kind of possible photos that we can go over. Then the fourth commitment could be to tailor the proposal and then to negotiate and to iron out all the details, because the guy can come over, I can see everything, I can like his ideas, but then he says it's going to be 200k, and then I say 200k, are you mad? 200k for what? For a simple profile photo. And then we start negotiating back and forth and blah blah blah, and then we iron out the details. You can see now everything is moving forward in a very straightforward manner, and this relationship is being teleguided towards a specific end. Then the final commitment would be to ask for the sale. Would now be, okay, bros, so we've agreed we're going to do everything for 75k. The best time for the shoot, in my own opinion, would be next week Friday, 3 p.m. What do you think? I'll say yes or I'll say no. If I say no, we'll fix the time. Then after that, then you now ask for the sale. So bros, to move forward, what I need is a deposit of 40K before we do the shoot, and then the remaining balance of 40 minus 75, that's 35, right? 35. Then the balance of 35K after I deliver the photo in 2 weeks. So how far are you okay with this? I'll say yes or I'll say no. If I say no, anyway, that's a topic for another episode, but let's just assume that I say yes. If I say yes, then see, the deal is done. So you can see now that we have been moving everything forward because we have always been asking for a commitment. And of course, because we have a framework. If you don't have a framework and you're freestyling, you're not going to know what it is, what commitments you should be asking for. Now, remember, this is not a rule. It doesn't always have to be first, ask for permission to ask a question. Second, try and book a meeting. Third, go over options. 4, negotiate. 5, tailor. 6, what did I say? After tailoring, 6 would have been what? Collect the deposit, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't always have to work that way. It's going to be different for somebody who is selling photography services, and it's going to be different from somebody who is selling CV services. It's also going to be different if you sell pajamas or if you sell cow leg pepper soup over Instagram. So it's different. So what I've given you is not a rule, it's just a general framework, and I'm just trying to get you to get the gist about how we should always be asking for the commitment. Tailor it to your situation. If this sounds like Greek, that's the reason why people like me exist. Sales and business consultants. Hit me up for private consultations. Let's help you sort this out for your business. So that is ABC. Always be closing. Or, as I like to put it, always be asking for the commitment. I know that's not ABC technically, but just bear with me here. So, let me see, 26 minutes. Okay. I really should have made them separate episodes. Okay, continuations. Okay, yes, continuations. Now, if you've been if you've been following me so far, I should always be asking for commitments. Then, and you remember what a continuation is. Then, if you're stuck in a continuation, if you don't know what continuation is, just go look for any of the Dear Remilekun episodes, and you'll get the gist. So, if you know continuation, then get out or try and refocus the conversation on their problems. Focus it on their aspirations, focus it on their pain points, focus it on their vision, or focus it on your product or service use case scenarios. Those are the problems that you solve. If you're stuck in a continuation and you cannot refocus on this, then please get out of the relationship because you're just wasting your time. If you're in a continuation, that is when you're just making friends aimlessly, and then people will start ghosting you because people have better things to do with their time. You don't know how to structure the conversation, but you know that both of you went to OAU and both of you like Manchester United. So therefore, every time you hit this guy up on LinkedIn or you send this lady a message on Instagram, you start off with the whole Manchester United thing, or Lagos Housewives showing on Showmax, or what is it? You're stuck in the continuation. You're not going anywhere. Get out, exit it, come up with a better plan, and apply that to someone else. That'll be a lot better. Or try and refocus on the problem. So, advancements. You should always secure the next action point at the current meeting that you're having. Oh, by the way, advancements, you don't know what that is, then just check up older episodes, the older Remilekun episodes. We've only done about 3 or 4, so there's not too much material that you have to get through so you can understand what it is. But if you're always asking for commitments, then you already know what an advancement is. So all the commitments that you're getting, those are the advancements. And you'd always get the next advancement at this current meeting. So in the example that I gave, the guy was like, hey bro, congratulations, blah 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 blah, how's this business consulting thing working out? And it ends with oh, can I call you next week Tuesday? You agree on the phone call for next week Tuesday now that you're chatting with the person. You don't end the conversation or end the chat with the person now only to now send them a fresh message on Tuesday because you now want to book a phone call. No. While you're chatting, while you're emailing, while you're SMSing, while you are at the person's office or whatever, at this current conversation, get the next advancement now. If you're in the person's office now and the next stage is you should go and look at album samples, or you have to go and visit site or something, for those of you who do real estate, then this is the point to secure that meeting. So, okay, Oga, with the way that we've been talking so far, Oga, Madam, with the way that we've been talking so far, it looks like I have some inventory that would be good for you. but the property that we have is in Kubwa. So I think we should schedule a meeting for next week. Maybe if we can leave your office by 7 a.m. so that we'll get to Kubwa, look at all the locations that we have there, and then get back on time. So, sir, what do you think? Madam, what do you think? Because you are here now. Secure the advancements now. Instead of saying, oh, thank you very much, Maya, it was nice meeting you, blah, 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 regards to your husband, regards to your children, you leave. Then you now trying to call her again on Tuesday morning to get her to come to site. While she's here now, book the appointment for the site now for Tuesday next week. And you call her up on Monday to remind her. So, if you don't know what a bunch of all these terms mean, ABC, continuations, advancements, no worries. Like I said, check any of the podcast episodes that have Remilekun in the title. Usually, I think I title them Dear Remilekun, so it's easy for her to find when she's listening. So, if you check out the Dear Remilekun episodes, you're going to find what all these terms mean and you get caught up to speed. Don't worry, I think for the Remilekun episodes, they've been on average 15-20 minutes, so there shouldn't be a problem. So, what does all this mean now for Remilekun, especially since she was looking for mentors on LinkedIn? This is what it means. Don't just go in there and then make the direct pitch for someone to be your mentor. Number one, reach out, introduce yourself on LinkedIn, pay the people some compliments, ask them questions about their business. Try and figure out how your skill set, how your interests, how your professional background aligns with their business goals. Then, offer to help them with specific projects or specific assignments or specific tasks. After a while, that's when you can now make the ask for a more formal internship or mentorship or tutelage or clerking. So that's how it works on LinkedIn. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of time, Remilekun, or other people who are looking for mentors, but just be patient. Follow this process and you'll be fine. And notice what I said. After you have reached out, introduced yourself, you paid them some compliments, you've asked about their business, you're trying to figure out how your skill sets aligned, you've offered to help them for free on specific projects and stuff like that. Then, after that, if you say, Sister BC, I really respect what it is that you do in this blah, 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 blah space. I'm thinking of getting into the business. I hope you don't mind if I can become your intern. I'll be coming to the office twice a week. Then it doesn't seem awkward. You're not a stranger anymore. You helped on some specific tasks. They think you're a sharp, you're a bright young lady, or you're a sharp young man. For those of you who are looking for for men who are looking for mentors on LinkedIn, and it's not awkward because they know you. You guys have a prior relationship. So, in that sense, when you now ask for internship or for mentorship or for tutelage or for clerking, that's for those of you who are law students and who want to clerk for a judge, then it's not an odd thing. They'll be like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, you can come over to my chambers on Tuesday morning. You will speak to my assistant Adebayo. Adebayo will bring you up to speed. He will let you know what I require about clerks, and yeah, you can start on Monday, and you can sit on when I'm giving my judgments on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So for those of you who are law students, my first background was in law. This is how you go about it. Don't just send the judge a message on LinkedIn like that. They don't know who you are. And straight up, you say, Justice Adebayo, I admire your ruling on so. Can you be my mentor? Can I collect for you? Now that's too much. That is weird. And with how Nigeria is, everybody being security conscious, the judge is just going to block or delete. But you go through this somewhat long process and be like, oh, young man, it would be nice to even meet yourself. Yeah, I like you. Sure, no problem. Come over to the office. So that's how it works. So, summary. You can see that if you have some sort of framework and you're stuck chatting with people about the elections, chatting about the economy, chatting about Manchester United, chatting about season 10 of Big Brother Africa, chatting about Love Island or whatever, then you have missed road. You think you're doing relationship building, but actually you have missed road severely. You're freestyling, you don't have a plan, this thing is not going to work. Have a simple framework, and this will stop you from things from getting boring. It'll put you firmly in charge of the conversation. You know how to direct the relationship towards a specific end. Oh, sorry, a phone call is coming through. Let me just mute that. Sorry, one moment, boy. Okay, I guess now is the time for me to come up with what's it called? To get a dedicated laptop where I can make these recordings instead of using my phone. Anyway, So all these things are not going to work if you don't have a CRM. What's a CRM? That's a topic for another episode. Or just check older episodes of my podcast and you see what a CRM is. So, Remilekun, I tried to cram all that into one episode, and that brings to an end the conversations that we've been having so far. But of course, since we still have an ongoing relationship where you're trying to work through a couple of things, I'll try and respond to any other questions that you have. So there might be Remilekun episodes in the future, but for now, on this whole thing on setting on LinkedIn, I hope I have been able to convince you and not confuse you, and I've been able to clarify things, and I hope that this part of the conversation now up, is now at an end. But if it's not, yeah, hit me up if there's anything that needs to be clarified, Remilekun, and we can talk about that. So if you love what you've been hearing on the podcast, that's for the rest of you, apart from Remilekun, and you love what you've been hearing so far, then hit me up on my number is 080 You can call me, you can send me a text message, you can WhatsApp, you can Telegram. We have different ranges of services available. Even for those of you who are into e-commerce, you have a website, you want to optimize your online presence, you want to figure out what the best online sales tactics are, things like that. Reach out to me. I can help you sort that out. So hit me up on social media. My name is Tavishima Ayede. You can confirm the spelling of my name and my email address on the website where you're currently listening to this episode, or from the profile of the podcast app where you're currently listening to my voice. So that's it for today. Sorry for keeping you guys for 36 minutes. I hope I delivered value. Remilekun, I hope you understand everything so far. If you don't, hit me up. Always available on WhatsApp. Sorry I've been responding real late, but as a one-man show, there's a lot that you're trying to juggle. Yeah, so that's it. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.